Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be giving you some quick tips for the career mode in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. To begin with, certifications. When you're working on your certification, you will notice that each one of the certifications can only be unlocked by completing the previous certification. The other thing you'll probably notice is there is a strong cost involved with it. Now this is not a problem because once you have paid this cost, you can retake this as many times as you choose to do so until you succeed at it. The second thing we'll take a look at is searching for missions. Now, one of the problems you're going to probably have is as you start to accumulate missions, you start to slowly expand your world map. You'll notice, for example, mine's got some stuff in Europe. I've got some stuff in New England based on where I started. But one of the things you probably also noticed is the fact that you do not have the ability to simply pick a random airport and go to it. So, for example, if I wanted to go to Whiskey 29er, which is Bay Bridge down in Maryland, you'll notice the fact that there are no missions available for it because I've not flown into it at this time. If I hit the missions list, you'll just see that it is empty like this. This isn't a problem because one of the things you have the ability to do is you could actually select a bridge or select a particular airport and you can recenter on that. Now, if I order a fast travel like this, what it will do is it'll make it so that we can then use jobs in that region. So for example, if I'm going to pay my 1200 here and go ahead and close this, you'll see I've now opened up a new part of the world for the purposes of going ahead and selecting missions. The next thing you'll know is when you're searching for missions, if you go ahead and press this little arrow here, you have a list of all the different missions that are available. Now, one of the problems you're probably going to notice here is the fact there's not a lot of sorting controls here. It'd be really nice if I could come in here and say, give me just the missions that cost 4,600. For example, we have that one, which is asking us to fly a helicopter for an incredibly long amount of time. Now, one of the things that I found that work really well when you're picking missions is the fact that there is no penalty to using the automatic pilot on any of the aircraft that you have selected, or, for that matter, using time acceleration for any of the missions. So, for example, if I want to take this Roberts Farm plane delivery mission, that sounds like a really long flight. But because I'm going to be using an aircraft that has an autopilot, I can take advantage of that. I'll show you. But while we're here, it's important to know that you always have the ability to press Alt-N to skip to a different component. Now, this becomes very important in some missions, especially helicopter missions, where things like taxiing can become impossible to do because of some kind of geographic feature. Perhaps you have to fly over a runway. The important thing to note is that with each one of these quick little missions here, all you're really responsible for doing is going ahead and getting those initial pieces out of the way. Now, if you have a situation like here, like where it's very difficult to reach and grab something, you can actually try to use it directly. Now, if I click that, it's all set. And all we have to do now is press Shift-C to get this party started. Now, it is important to note that going through these couple second little procedures, like where I'm starting up the engine and everything like that, is you're going to be getting a bonus of experience points. If you skip these components, you'll get to the mission quicker, but you're not going to be getting that bonus. It's important to note in all these missions, whenever you're going to be doing any taxiing, that you have to keep your speed to 20 knots or less. In the event that you exceed 20 knots, you will be receiving a penalty. Now that we're on our way, we can just go ahead and instead of flying these big old squares in the sky, it actually doesn't matter. One of the things we can do, of course, is if we wanted to, we can simply just use our regular avionics to go ahead and get everything scored away. We can even do things like select our altitudes, use all the different pieces that we have, time acceleration, which we'll show you in a second here. But the one thing we cannot do is slew. Now, if things were ideal, we could, but unfortunately, they won't let us to do that. So to give you an idea of how easy this is to really stew, we're heading to South Albany Airport, which is going to be 4 Bravo 0. So there's nothing stopping me from opening this up, coming in here, typing in 4 Bravo 0, and then going ahead and just pressing enter and dialing it into our regular avionics just like that. Now all I have to do is flip on my automatic pilot, put it on navigational hold mode, and now I can use that as a way to get myself to my destination smoothly. Now for me, of course, I'm going to set myself a cruise altitude that makes a little bit sense. We're going up to this one. I'll say nose up a little bit here. I'll do a flight level change mode. 106 is pretty good, but 75 is even better. And again, we can use all of our regular tools that we normally do. Keep in mind, if we wanted to, we could always skip to our descent. The downside of skipping to our descent, of course, is going to be that stiff penalty. But watch this. 1, 2, 3 blasts of time acceleration here. And you can see I'm receiving no penalty whatsoever. And even though it's going to be taking us a little bit of time to cover those 65 miles, I don't really have to stress out about a lot of the details as I do it. There's really no reason to actually fly in those blue boxes at all. And when we actually get to our destination, we're required to actually settle down on the ground in a moment, you'll notice that all those boxes that we see there are nice to have, but all that really matters is that we settle down carefully. Now, if you're not sure what button is linked to sim rate, time acceleration is under decrease sim rate and increase sim rate. One of the important things you need to know to not get zinged for piloting penalties is to note that whenever you are going to be doing any sort of operation, all the speed limits apply in the aircraft. So in our particular case here, we've entered into a very sharp descent, which we won't take any penalties for. However, if I were to put down my flaps, for example, it would actually give me a warning there. The other thing you need to keep in mind, too, is whenever you're doing any of these sort of operations, that you have to be able to control your aircraft as well. So if I were to suddenly pull up, I could cause an over G situation. If I oversped my aircraft, I'd take a penalty on that. And that's one of the things that really, really matters here. Now, you'll notice here, I'm coming down very, very sharply at 2,200 feet per minute and basically diving down to my local traffic pattern altitude before I actually get to my particular position. It's important to know roughly what that altitude is before you descend below it. All right, this is where you make your money. Now, as you're doing this approach, a couple things you just want to kind of keep in mind. First of all, softness counts. So one of the things that's going to have the biggest impact in your rating is how gently you can get this thing down on the ground. Now, one of the tricks you can use, of course, is when you're coming in for your approaches, is to always remember that you do not have to land at full flaps. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull my nose up a little bit here. Now I'm going to give myself 2 clicks of flaps as opposed to 3 clicks of flaps. Now that for some people might sound like one of the most scandalous things you can possibly do, but it's really not that big of a deal. Now the reason that's not that big of a deal is because with that extra little bit of drag, it makes it a little bit more likely to hang out when you're coming in for your final little piece here. And you can see here, just to give you an idea of how aggressive I can be with that time acceleration, that I can literally use time acceleration almost all the way down to the runway here. So again, I've got my aircraft at idle. I'm going to come over the runway, and all we're going to do is we're going to play keep away. And since we're using one less click of flaps, you'll notice you have very, very acute control over exactly how gentle you can place that thing on the ground. And you could see there that it went ahead and yelled at me for an undesignated landing area. And now the reason it did that to me, of course, is because this game has some issues. So even though you did everything perfectly, and now you were able to have perfect control of the aircraft, you landed at the right airport, you did absolutely everything you were supposed to do, it still gave you that penalty because of the detection issues. Don't panic. One of the things you can always do is press escape, press that restart button, and begin again. And just like that, mission success. Hopefully you'll have fun with the career missions inside of this game. You're always going to be running into little problems here and there, but that's part of the fun. Remember, you can always restart, you can always skip trip. Enjoy.